Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. My name's Chris and it's fantastic to have you back with us for another video, and this is a really anticipated MultiVAC update video. This is the one that you've been waiting for. At least that's how it would appear from social media, Twitter, Discord, all that sort of wonderful stuff. Lots of people really want to know what it is that I want to talk about. So, here we are. I thought, things have really escalated on Twitter, and there's things that need to be said and need to be covered off. So I have brought forward my MTV MultiVAC video update. So I would normally be saying, mash up that like button if you enjoy the content. But I already know that quite a few of you have probably already thumbed it down. So what I would say is retract those thumbs down, enjoy the content, and, hear me out, basically. Hear me out, because, I think once you've heard me out, then make your decision when you thumb up or you thumb down. And don't forget, it's been a while. Subscribe, come back into the ecosystem of Cheeky Crypto. Tapping that bell so you don't miss a video. Right, let's get down to the desktop. Let's sort of dig into some of this stuff that really needs to be covered off. Okay, so let's start on CoinMarketCap, just because I want to just build up a little bit of suspense, because that's what I do apparently. So MultiVAC ranked 940th by market cap, and it's up 12.77%, and yeah, nice. Currently at 0.001568. So let's sort of dig into this a little bit. We have a look at the full history. Obviously, I think we highlighted it somewhere down here. So when we've highlighted it, we always talk about taking profits. And, I think it's fitting to sort of discuss it on this video as well. So people rode it up, they rode it back down, they rode it all the way back up again, then all the way down a little bit, and then all the way back up. And then, I guess if you're on this video watching now, you rode it all the way up 2 or 3 times, and then you've rode it down. So, yeah, I feel that for people that have done that. And I think, this leads me into the fact that, this is a really difficult market to predict, right? And it always interests me because, when you look at social media and, YouTubers get a really rough ride of it, right? And this is probably going to get a few people's backs up ultimately, because, I think it needs to be said though, the data set for crypto is very, very small, and there's really like, 3 data points, right, that people are trying to predict where the market is going to go. You likes of 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗀𝗃, he's got it wrong. You've got hedge fund managers, owners of like hedge fund companies getting it wrong. There's so many examples of it, and I'm not calling these people out. I'm not calling 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗀𝗃 out and saying that he's no good. He's very good at what he does. But what I'm trying to articulate is it doesn't matter the number of followers that a YouTuber's got. It's really to do with the actual data set itself, right? And the fact that, it's super, super early. It's not like you've got 30 years worth of data to make your predictions on. And ultimately, people giving YouTubers hard times about price predictions. We see BitBoy with his $100,000 Bitcoin. We see 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗀𝗃, talking about, higher numbers than that, I believe. I don't actually watch him, but so I'm led to believe. And ultimately, we haven't seen those. Now, where did they get these numbers from? And I think we can include ourselves, right? We've called out like a $1 MultiVAC, possibly. I don't know whether we did or we didn't. Yeah, it's been a long time since we covered it. But let's say we did, just for argument's sake, right? That would have been in the fibs. It would have been worked out mathematically. It's not like these YouTubers and analysts and hedge fund managers are just putting their fingers in the air and going, it's going to be this price, and then tomorrow saying a different price. I think, YouTubers get a real rough ride And ultimately, it's the gig. Nick and myself fell into this, right? And I think we've done a fantastic job. Some of you may agree, some of you may not. And ultimately, you're entitled to your opinion. And having your opinion, as well as us having our own opinion, is a healthy thing. But, you know, I look at some of the things that have been posted recently, and I don't take offense to it. I really don't care. But what I would say is ultimately it's not healthy for the space. But, you know, it is what it is, right? And, you know, maybe I bit, but maybe you deserved it. So, you know, ultimately, yeah, I feel sorry for people that have got caught up, that perhaps don't have enough experience. Maybe you've only been in crypto a year, for example. Maybe, you know, you got in at January, you got in, you know, a higher price, or you got in at the same price we did, but you rode it up and you rode it all the way down and bought NFTs in the hope that, you know, you'd become rich. But ultimately, you know, I see a lot of people setting up YouTube channels. They haven't been in the space for a long time. Again, I'm not bad-mouthing any individual, but I just think, you know, they're compounding the issues, trying to make something look better than it actually is. And I'm not referring to MultiVAC at this point, just so we're clear, right? I do think that ultimately there's people out there that, you know, don't know what they're talking about. You know, implying that the people that do know what they're talking about don't know what they're talking about. So just want to, you know, I guess food for thought. So, you know, what I want to do is start off with what's kind of kicked all this stuff off. And maybe I shouldn't have done it. Learning every day is a school day is something that I always say. But ultimately, it was just a bit of fun. I was just poking a little bit of fun. Sean has been obviously seen playing a game, and that is fine. Everybody's entitled to downtime. I thought people would see it as a bit of a joke, but perhaps hindsight being a wonderful thing isn't really the case. And there'll be people that will construe or misguide people to believe that this was done, you know, strategically to build up suspense and, you know, for views, right? And this is something that gets said a lot. You know, they're only doing it for views. Now, I can tell you categorically, I wouldn't be doing this video if I wanted views. Yeah, hence we haven't done it for 2 months, because we don't get many views on MultiVAC. If you haven't noticed, you're one of very few people that have actually stayed in the project, right? And don't get me wrong, you can talk about wallets going up, you can talk about more being staked, but who's staking it, right? And are these real wallets? Now, I'm not suggesting that they are. These are just questions that I think people should be asking themselves, you know, and perhaps even asking MultiVAC themselves as an example. But ultimately, this was just put out. It was just a bit of jest, but ultimately there's going to be people that are going to try to discredit everything that we do and everything that we say. And some of the stuff I took offense to, right? And, you know, ultimately, there are people in perhaps the admin group that know they took it too far, said some stuff they shouldn't have said, and ultimately you poked a bear. You don't poke a bear. You know, I'm really not bothered about whether MultiVAC, you know, has a fantastic ride through the bear market, or it has a terrible time through the bear market. The only thing I really care about is the people that are invested in it, which is why I'm doing the video. I'm really not interested. I've got nothing to gain. I don't own any MultiVAC. You know, I'm really just doing it because I know that a lot of our community are still invested in MultiVAC, right? And some of them are, you know, very bullish on MultiVAC, right? And that is also fine. But, you know, I put out, you know, maybe you'll think a little bit differently when you see my next video on MultiVAC, as I'll be sharing information that has been sent to me 4 days to go. So some of the things that came up off of the back of this tweet was, you know, the usual. They haven't got any information. You know, lots of, you know, people trying to be offensive. But ultimately, lots of people questioning why 4 days. So just circling back, we sold on, well, I guess it was the 1st of January. So obviously you're likely to be aware that there was an announcement that Frank was leaving the team. I didn't like how that was handled. So ultimately, we could see the price was going to fall. So we weren't staked. so we sold. And ultimately, we got lots of backlash for that, right? So there's lots of, I guess, backstory to all of this, right? Because I had COVID at the time, I wasn't well, and I think Nick was unwell at the same time, right? So we weren't really online. We were struggling to get on with stuff because of COVID, and ultimately we told people in our Discord, and that message obviously never got filtered outwards. We did a video maybe 4 or 5 days later, and we got lots of backlash. We should have told everybody. We should have given people notice. So this is basically me listening to the MultiVAC community and ultimately giving them 7 days notice. Now, it's unfortunate that perhaps some people aren't in our Discord and some people didn't get that 7 days notice. Now, going back to January, I did say, if you want to be kept up to date, you need to jump in our Discord. If you chose not to do that and you chose not to be engaged, then, you know, that's on yourselves, right? Ultimately, I think, you know, learning to be made from this, generally, you know, if you are somebody that sat there that wishes that they had the time to undelegate, that the lesson learned is make sure that you're heavily engaged in the projects you're invested in, not just MultiVAC, but, you know, all the different projects. Because ultimately, if somebody drops a piece of news, I'm giving you notice I'm going to drop some news. I don't know what it's going to do to the price, you know, but I'm giving people an opportunity to tee themselves up for it, and then they can make a decision, you know, whether it's something they don't want to invest in anymore or something they do want to invest in. Ultimately, I can't make that decision. I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. And ultimately, it's just my opinion. I'm not a journalist. I'm a YouTuber. And ultimately, I know nothing. You shouldn't listen to me, according to a lot of the people that, you know, are on Twitter. So, you know, ultimately, those are the reasons for that. I did want to sort of just clear that up, just so people have, I guess, a little bit more understanding, right? So just sort of going back to the view situation, because a lot of people are going to say that, you know, I put out that tweet, you know, it's about, you know, generating like fear, uncertainty, doubt, FUD, and it's all to get views. Now, I'm telling you now, as I mentioned earlier, I would rather do a video on Luna right now. Yeah, here's an example. We've never had 92,000 views on a MultiVAC video. We've never even had 40,000 views on a MultiVAC video. So I'm definitely not doing it for views. Just want to, you know, highlight that, be clear, be honest, be transparent, everything that we always say we are. Moving on. The other big thing that I really want to sort of discuss and bring up is the fact that somebody in the community or outside the MultiVAC community has set up a fake profile for Sean. Now, what I want to say is we had nothing to do with this, nothing to do with us. I haven't set an account up in Sean's name. I wouldn't do that. I think it actually breaks Twitter rules. But ultimately, we have no part to play in this. This is, again, as if we circle back earlier in the video, this is basically people trying to discredit us because they know that we've got information that is not going to be good for some of the individuals. So ultimately, that's what I believe this to be. But I'm telling you now, it's nothing to do with us. I just think that, you know, as part of this video, it's really important that I do cover that off. Now, so what I wanted to do was just cover off some of the stuff that's been said, you know, be it by mods or just the community in general that are perhaps like heavily invested in MultiVAC or projects within the MultiVAC ecosystem and or invested in it. Basically, you know, self-preservation is normally the key, right? And why people do this sort of stuff. There's a lot of people trying to discredit us, jumping the gun, accusing something that hasn't even released yet of being FUD. And I think there's a misconception of what FUD is. FUD isn't something that you don't want to hear and doesn't align with your set agenda, your self-preservation. You know, that's factually accurate, right? As long as it's factually accurate, which it will be, it's not FUD, right? And we've never gone FUDding MultiVAC or any other project, right? We've kind of come out with some of the facts on projects, and, you know, we always talk about the good and the bad. But let's sort of dig into this. This is basically somebody within the Discord on MultiVAC talking about, the things that we're going to talk about in our unpublished video to FUD MultiVAC. And the first thing that they've called out is Frank is the head tech guy and contributing on GitHub activity, not Sean. Okay. They do not have the experience in a bear market, hence the project dies. So point number 2, and I'm going to probably ask a few questions here, right? So do let me know if you've got the answers to these, or your team MultiVAC and you can answer all of these, then you know what, reply, DM the answers to me and, put them in the comments below. Really interested to see whether they can actually answer all these questions that I've got. So the first one is, how could I possibly say or, articulate to anybody how a non-docs team, apparently nobody knows who the team is, doesn't have the experience to survive a bear market, right? Because I don't see how you can possibly do that if the team isn't doxed and you don't know who they are, because you can't see what experience they have or haven't got. So unfortunately, no, that is not what we have planned to cover, but nice try. Sean does not have the knowledge or capability to run MultiVAC. Well, I mean, does he? There you go. There's your first question. Does Sean have the knowledge and capability to run MultiVAC? It's a question for you. Let me know. I'm not going to comment either way. I'm really not, that way inclined. Sean used more time on games than MultiVAC. Well, I guess there's a question. Do you think that's the case? I mean, I personally have no problems with people playing games. Circle back to the beginning of the video. It was just in jest. It was nothing more than that. People sometimes take things far too seriously and maybe a little bit out of context. And sometimes people post things, and hindsight's a wonderful thing, right? But I'm not going to apologize for it. At the end of the day, he was playing a game. It's factual, right? It's not FUD. It's factual. He was playing a game, and it's also factual that it's fine that he's playing a game. I never said it wasn't fine. Okay, they only I guess that should say they only have 2 or 3 in the team. Again, the team's not doxed. I don't know how many people they have in their team. There's lots of chatter that maybe it's just Sean. Let me know. What do you think? Is it just Sean, or is there 2 or 3 people in the team? Really interested to know. And I mean, if you're in MultiVAC team, let us know the numbers, right? I mean, depending on where I look, you could get 19, for example, or you could have less. But ultimately, I would say the team consists of many people, because I look at a team as not just Sean, Frank, and any other Tom, Dick, and Harry that's running the show from a technical standpoint. I also include the mods, the admins, and all of those people that make up the whole team, because it is a whole team, right? There needs to be fantastic communication, from all of these people for it to be a show or an operation that runs smoothly, right? Like, I include, I imagine that there's more than 3 people just as mods, right? And I could go into Telegram and I could go through and I could see how many mods they have, because it tells you that they're moderators or admins or whatever it does. I haven't looked, but I could go do that, right? And so could you guys. So you could probably get an idea that there's more than 2 or 3 people in the team, depending on how you look at what the team is made up of. No activity on GitHub for 4 months. Yeah, we could talk about that. I would question, what has MultiVAC achieved since the 31st of December? Let me know in the comments below. I'm talking solely MultiVAC. I'm not talking about projects on the ecosystem. I'm talking about what have MultiVAC team achieved in the last, 5.5 months or so. Okay, too many errors in the tech. Yeah, I could talk about errors in the tech. I could talk about downtime. I could talk about all of those sorts of things. But then I would also say that Solana has a lot of downtime. Other projects have had a lot of downtime, in the earlier days. There's many things that I could be about to say, right? Funds running out to support the project. Yeah, I mean, I could look at that, I guess. Whistleblower showing some data that that Sean doing shady things. I guess, yeah, I could do that if there was a whistleblower showing some data that Sean was doing shady things. The question that I ask you is, do you think Sean is doing shady things? You know, let me know. You know, I would love the answers to all of my questions. It'd just be amazing for the community to get the answers to these questions. And clearly, there's a group of individuals that are looking to sort of explain everything away, right? So they're probably getting the answers for these now as we speak. So this should be quite easy. I should expect these answers almost immediately. And here we go. So these kind of things, I believe, will be said to FUD the project, but reality is they are doing it to get attention. If we circle back, if I wanted attention, I would just do Luna. I've got nothing to benefit from talking about MultiVAC, particularly today. Normally, if a project fails, you move on. They shield it, and now Sean give them the cold shoulder, so they are mad. Now, just on that note, I've got no hard feelings towards Sean whatsoever. I think it's it shows the type of character that an individual is when they say they're going to do something and they don't do it. But to say I'm mad about it, I'm really not. Disappointed, but I'm not mad. I hold no grudge towards many men. Don't get me wrong, there's a few people that wind me up, but ultimately I don't hold a grudge. My 5 years experience, which I'm just going to say is not a lot of experience, in crypto, is people get very emotionally attached to a coin. And that is a very valid point, because I feel like if you are an individual that has rode it all the way up 3 times, rode it all the way down, and you didn't take no profit, then I kind of feel like you're married potentially to your bag. Now, you know, you should look in a mirror and ask yourself, you know, are you emotionally tied to a coin, whether it be MultiVAC or whether it be something else? I think, you know, it's a very important thing to do, right? People do get sort of captivated by everything that's going on, misled by bad actors, and you know, become very emotionally attached. So ask yourself, are you attached to a project, an altcoin? And let's sort of circle back to what we've got here. And when you, a big YouTuber, I love that. We're not big YouTubers, but thanks, like, appreciate it. Like, maybe one day we'll be big. Who lose money or feel that the owner owes, which is spelt incorrectly, you the publicity later to get the cold shoulder. They get mad and FUD projects. Just be prepared for these nonsense. So ultimately, I'm not angry. I'm not upset. You know, you win some and you lose some. And actually, we sold this December 31st, January 1st. Once the announcement was made, and you know, we were, you know, we weren't staked. So ultimately, I made profit then. We got in super early. We highlighted it to you guys. One thing that we do here on Cheeky Crypto is, you know, we highlighted it whilst the investment was being made, not like afterwards. You know, we didn't dump on you. We told you when we were doing. We do things here that no one else does. How many other people tell you, you know, that, you know, their staking movements, their buys, their sells? We do all of that, and we have always done all of that. We've been very transparent and honest with everybody, and we will tell you the good, but we will also tell you the bad. And you know, if we go right back to when we first started talking about the project, and I'm not going to use the word shill because I just you know, I just think that that's just distasteful. We weren't paid or endorsed to talk about MultiVAC. The stuff that we looked at was really, really good. The team was doxed. I'm just going to put that out there. The team was doxed. You know, we did our research. We looked at all the teams, you know, at individual level. We did a lot of research, and we were confident based on what Sean and the team were telling us about the project, and what was written out in the different papers, the technical paper, the yellow paper, the white paper, and so on. That this is a solid project that has got legs, right? And even Sean talking about it as if it's 𝗕𝗙 2.0. When we first had him on the channel, right? And that brings me on to another thing that was raised is we're upset that he wouldn't come on for another interview. If we're really honest, we never wanted to have the interview in the first place. It was very, very difficult to do an interview with Sean. Time differences were an issue. The lag his end was an issue, and ultimately we're not really big on doing too many interviews anyway. So we're not upset about people not wanting to do interviews. We never wanted to follow up with another interview anyway. So I just want to be really clear on some of the facts and sort of move them away from the fact from what is fact and what is fiction, just so everybody is kind of aware. Now, one thing that I did want to sort of highlight, there's a couple of individuals here that seem to have a certain dislike towards us, would like to discredit us, and one thing that I would encourage is I guess a proper adult sort of way of approaching things, in the respect that ultimately I don't want to have debates with people is one of the things, like like a live debate on another channel. Like I'm not really debating anything. I'm just going to lay out some facts, and it's distasteful to try to discredit somebody who hasn't even put a video out yet, like making it out to be FUD and not accurate information before anything's been put out. So I think it's distasteful, but ultimately I have put here know the risk. If a project like 𝗂𝗓 can is down 99.98%, you can still lose another 99.98%, lower than the current price at the time. Now, the reason why I put this out was these individuals were saying that basically you're investing in 𝗂𝗓, but you're not invested in MultiVAC. Now, there's a couple of things, like I put out a video to say this is the most degen thing that I've done, right, in crypto, and that is invest in 𝗂𝗓, right, somewhere near the bottom, right, just to be very, very clear. And like the way that I look at this is, would you invest in so you've got two options, right? You can, and I'm not suggesting that MultiVAC's option 2, but option number 1 is 𝗂𝗓, right? Let's just be clear. So option A, invest in a project that 99.99% is going to lose all your money, or B, project B, where you don't know that it's going to lose 99.99% of your money. What would you prefer to invest in? Now, me, I'd like to invest knowing the risks, not knowing the risks. And ultimately, that's where I position this, right? So the point that I'm trying to make is, MultiVAC, we go back here, MultiVAC at this price can still drop 98.72%. So what I don't want, and I guess a bit of education for people that are new in the space, is I don't want people investing in something because it's super cheap and, it can go all the way up. It can also go down 100% too. So just be aware of that. You can still lose all of your money and there still be, a market cap for a project, just to be really, really clear. So I wanted to cover that off, just to be really, really clear. No point in covering the comments. The other thing that I was going to talk about is just a little bit on 𝗂𝗓 here, in the respect that 𝗂𝗓 probably has more total value locked than MultiVAC after this whole shenanigans actually sort of played out, right? At 445.64 million. So I really do think that people shouldn't just throw shit and hope that it sticks. and should really educate themselves a little bit more on the crypto space. I've actually made quite a lot of money on Luna. I haven't been talking about the fact that I've been trading it for the last 2 days, pretty much non-stop between videos, because I'm not the sort to promote gambling, which is basically what it is. But ultimately, it's all a gamble. I would say that taking a punt on MultiVAC right now would be a gamble, not knowing what I know. So that's just my opinion. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's factually accurate, but that's my opinion. And don't make any investment decisions based on anything that I'm saying in this video. So the other thing here, again, to just talk about would be the fact that we must be really annoyed with MultiVAC building up larger numbers, I guess, in their staking pool. I really don't mind. I think people have got this misconception that myself and Nick would like MultiVAC to fail. That is as far away from the truth as it could possibly be. I want MultiVAC to be successful, and I hold no grudges of lost money. I have lost very little money on MultiVAC. I'm just going to be really clear. I made a sizable amount when I sold 1st of January. I lost the second time around that I sold, and the only reason I got back in, and I've learnt my lesson, is I listened to a lot of these individuals that a lot of you guys are listening to, that are out for themselves, in my opinion, and ultimately they convinced me that there's loads going on MultiVAC, and it's a really everything's sound, and you'll be a fool to be out of it, and actually I was right the first time. The time to have got out of MultiVAC, in my humble opinion, was when I first got out, and I shouldn't have got back in. So my lessons have been learned in the respect that I'm right more than I'm wrong, and ultimately, if I make a decision to sell, stick to your guns. So that's my lesson to learn, and obviously everyone here has got to make their own learnings and take their own lessons. And yeah, for me, why do I want MultiVAC to succeed? To the contrary of what a lot of people are putting misleading information out there about us. Why do I want it to succeed? The reason why I want MultiVAC to succeed is because I'm all about crypto adoption, and I'm not for tribalism. I'm not for marrying your bags. I'm not about centralized versus decentralized. I'm not against Bitcoin in any way. I'm not for Bitcoin in any way. But I am here for the adoption of the technology, and to build generational level wealth. And ultimately, if projects keep failing, if 99% of the projects fail, then a lot of money is being lost. And if a lot of money is being lost, that is not good for adoption. So I just want to be really, really clear about my stance and my views and my opinions on the market, and where I'm really coming from. I actually care about you as individuals. Yeah, like I say, I'm not bothered about the number of views on this video. I'm really not bothered. I'm not bothered about the amount of likes to dislikes. I'm really not bothered. The one thing that I am bothered about is I talked about a project, and I know that there are people in the space that rode it up 3 times, took no profits, didn't sell when we sold, and stayed in. There's people that got in later and rode it all the way down. You can take a loss, you can take an L, and still come out good. I just want to be clear about that. There's lots of people that took an L on Luna and made more money than they lost. There's a lot of people like ourselves got out of Reef, took an L on Reef, got into Anchor, turned it into a winner. Like, sometimes you can go down another 100% or another 50%. Now, I'm not trying to scare people. I'm not trying to say people should sell or they should buy. I'm just trying to share some of my knowledge with you. I'm talking about and raising these things that I think need to be raised for you. Now, you can choose to believe me. You can choose to not believe me. You can believe the people that are building on MultiVAC, that clearly have more of an interest in how well MultiVAC does than I do. I have no interest in it. The only interest I have is the people that, you know, potentially rode it up and rode it back down. That's my only interest. So you know, it's up to you guys whether you believe me or not, but ultimately I've put a lot of time and effort into putting this video together, and you know, it is what it is, right? And it will be what it will be. So you're probably starting to realize that this isn't the video that I had planned to do, and I'm sorry if you feel like I've strung you along for I don't know how many minutes that we've been talking so far, but ultimately that video will be coming, and I will be revealing all. I'm not going to be doing it now. I really wanted to sort of just, you know, cover some of the things off, some of the, I guess, the misunderstandings, I guess, some of the misinformation, and people, you know, threatening to take me to, you know, to court over what I haven't even said yet, when people are saying some very awful things about us. And, you know, if you poke a bear, you know, you should be prepared for what comes, is all I'm going to say. So I hope that you enjoyed this content. I hope that it was meaningful in some way, in some shape or form. I hope that you took something, you know, from this video. Now, what I will say is, please don't sue me. If I've said something that isn't factually accurate, I would suggest going to do your own research. This is just purely my opinion. Might not actually be factually accurate in any shape or form, and that's why we always encourage you to go do your own research. I am not a journalist, I'm a YouTuber. I'm not going to go fact check shit. I'm going to say what I think and what I feel and tell you it's my opinion, and that is all it is. So yeah, if you enjoyed the content, mash it up, mash that like button, and subscribe. And it's really important, tap that bell. You don't want to miss the next one. Take care.